The 6th of May, 2026, Wednesday morning. We're in chapter 6 of Common Buddhist Texts, Guidance and Insight from the Buddha. The chief editor of this book is Dr. Mahapradhamma Kosachan. We're in chapter 6 of the Buddhist path and its practice from the perspective of the Mahayana tradition. We previously covered the perspective from the Theravada tradition, and as we move forward, also to cover Vajrayana. The path of the bodhisattva as superior to those of the disciple and to the solitary Buddha. For reference, the bodhisattva is a person that took a vow to perfect their paramis, or the 10 perfections, and they take a vow to stay back, and it might even take lifetimes, but once they take this vow, they steadfastly try to perfect their paramis. Now, the path of the bodhisattva is superior to those of the Buddhas and the solitary Buddha. For a discussion from these paths in the Theravada context, it tells us to go to Theravada 1, chapter 6. The bodhisattva path as superior. The first passage affirms that the bodhisattva path is the superior to Buddha's path. The idea of Buddha does not take either of the relatively short paths, the path to becoming an awakened disciple or a solitary Buddha, but compassionately takes the long path to perfectly awaken Buddhahood, remaining in the round of samsara rebirths for innumerable lives to aid others, while developing the qualities needed for Buddhahood. The second passage explains that those who have attached the 6th of the 10 stages of the bodhisattva path, so there are 10 paramis, perfections. And this one says that those who have attained 6 of these 10 stages of bodhisattva path, the paramis, who are not yet certain of attaining perfect awakened Buddhahood, becoming an Arihat, are still superior to the Arihat, disciples and solitary Buddhas. Son of a good family. There are 3 dharmas, lower, intermediate, and higher. One who practices the lower dharma is a disciple. One who practices the intermediate dharma is a solitary Buddha. One who practices the higher dharma is a Buddha. Son of a good family. When a bodhisattva has reached the stage of vimutti, liberation, he will never perform actions that will lead to samsara vata, rebirth in divine levels of the realms of kama guna, central desire, the realm of form, rupa, or the formless realm. He takes a vow to always be born wherever he can benefit living beings. If he knows with certainty that his actions will lead to rebirth amongst the gods, he will immediately transform these actions in order to be born as a human being. The actions referred to here as generosity, dana, the observance of precepts, sila, and the practice of bhavana, concentration, meditation. When a disciple has reached the stage of initial liberation, no more than these 3 lives will pass before he realizes complete liberation. The same applies to the solitary Buddha. A bodhisattva, a great being who has reached the stage of initial liberation, never regresses, even though innumerable lives will pass before he attains complete vimutti, liberation. When his mind is irreversibly set on awakening, he is superior to all disciples and solitary Buddhas. Singhalaka asked Gautama Buddha, "Blessed One, why do living beings train their minds in order to attain awakening?" Gautama Buddha replied, "Son of a good family, there are two reasons why living beings train their minds in order to attain awakening. The first is that they reflect at although those who have attained the wisdom of the sixth stage of a bodhisattva path might regress, they are still superior to all stages in solitary Buddha. The second is that they diligently seek the unsurpassed fruit of practice. This can be cited in the Upasaka Sila Sutra, Daso, volume 24, text 1488, chapter 4. Now, I'm going to briefly iterate what they're practicing for the paramis. So there are 10 perfections of the Buddha. The first one is dana, which is generosity or giving. The second one is sila, perfection on virtue. The third one is perfection of renunciation, nikama. The fourth one is the perfection of wisdom, panya. The fifth one is the perfection of energy, virya, or effort. The sixth one is the perfection of patience, khanti. So that's what they were just talking about right here. So the bodhisattva, the first reflection through the who have attained the sixth stage of the Buddha bodhisattva path might regress. They are still superior to all the disciples. Now the last four would be satya, which is the perfection of truthfulness, atitana, perfection of resolution, of higher perfection of resolution, metta, the perfection of loving kindness, and then upekha, the perfection of equanimity. But here we just stated that even if they reach the sixth, so I read off all 10 of them. And from their perspective, they treat practicing the paramis moreover than trying to become a sotapanna. A sotapan is a person that got rid of the three fetters onto anagami, sakagami, and then arihat stage. But so we're looking from those two perspectives of paths of which one practices the Tathagata's dispensation or teaching. The superior wisdom of a perfectly enlightened Buddha. Son of a good family, the Tathagata, understanding all conditioning factors, is perfect. Disciples and solitary Buddhas also acquire an understanding of all conditioning factors in relation to the Four Noble Truths of the Noble Ones. But this understanding is incomplete. This is why they're not called perfectly awakened Buddhas or Arihats. Disciples and solitary Buddhas have eliminated their upakilesas, their defilements, but their habitual tendencies still remain. The Tathagata has uprooted even the basis for remaining habitual tendencies of the upakilesas, the defilements. This is why he is called the perfectly awakened Buddha. This can be cited in the Upasaka Sila Sutra Daso, Volume 24, Text 1488, Chapter 5. Only Buddhas completely end spiritual ignorance and fully experience Nibbita. In this passage, Queen Silimala gives the teaching that only perfectly awakened Buddhas have completely the task of spiritual transformation. Blessed One, Arihats, solitary Buddhas, and bodhisattvas who are in their final existence are submerged in the latent ignorance, avijja. They do not know, they do not perceive various arisen phenomena. If they do not know and do not perceive what should be destroyed, they cannot ultimately destroy it. As these things are not destroyed, their liberation, vimukti, is said to be incomplete, with flaws remaining. It is not flawless liberation. Their purity is said to be incomplete, not all-encompassing. This is called the achievement of incomplete virtue, sila. Sila, virtue which is not all-encompassing. It is the achievement of incomplete liberation, incomplete purity, incomplete virtue. If one partially understands what is painful, partially eliminates the origination, partially realizes the cessation, and partially practices the path, one is said to have partially attained Nibbita. Partially. The partial attainment of Nibbita is said to be oriented towards the realm of Nibbita. If one fully understands what is painful, fully eliminates its origination, fully realizes its cessation, fully practices the path, one is said to have to attain eternal Nibbita within the world. The impermanent decaying world, the impermanent disease-ridden world. It offers support and protection to the world which otherwise has no support and no protection. Why is this? It is because Nibbita is attained because phenomena are neither superior nor inferior, because wisdom is the same for everyone, because liberation is the same for everyone, because purification is the same for everyone. This is why Nibbita has one taste, the same taste for everyone, the taste of freedom. This could be cited in the Srimala Deva Simananta Sutra, Daso, Volume 12, Text 353, Chapter 5. The bodhisattva, one who's practicing the 10 perfections, works tirelessly with samsara, the rounds of rebirth, while attuned to Nibbita. In this passage, in which the Buddha addresses the bodhisattvas who have come from other worlds, he details how a bodhisattva should tirelessly work within the conditioned world to aid beings, contemplating the qualities of the unconditioned Nibbita, yet not allowing themselves to leave the conditioned worlds of rebirths. This is what is sometimes called Nibbita, which is not based on anything. Apatita Nibbita, aparatistita Nibbita. The Blessed One said, "The children of a good family, here is a liberation for bodhisattva, which is called the destructible and indestructible. You should train yourself in it. What does it consist of? The destructible refers to what is conditioned, and the indestructible refers to the unconditioned. A person practicing the 10 paramis should not destroy what is conditioned, nor base himself on what is unconditioned. Not destroying what is conditioned means not wavering from great loving kindness, metta, not giving up great compassion, karuna, not losing hold of the mind omniscience, which is based on firm reserve, vidya, not growing weary of being living beings into maturity, not abandoning the methods for bringing people together, giving up one's body and one's life to protect the eternal Dhamma, never being satisfied with the extent of one's wholesome roots, basing oneself on the dedication of one's wholesome actions to awakening, not being lazy in one's striving for the eternal Dhamma, not being tight-lipped when teaching the Dhamma, being greatly enthusiastic about seeing and worshiping the Tathagata, fearlessly choosing to be reborn, not being elated by success or bowed by failure, not looking down on those who are not learned, having the kind of affection for the learned and the pupil has for his teachers, bringing those who are filled with defilements, upakilesas, towards profound understanding, not being absorbed by the pleasures of solitude, not pursuing one's own happiness, but becoming absorbed by the pursuit of others' happiness, seeing jhana, meditative absorptions, meditative concentration, meditative attainments as being like the Avicii hell, seeing samsara vata as being like a place surrounded by gardens, seeing beggars as being like spiritual friends, seeing the abandonment of everything one owns as being like the attainment of omniscience, seeing immortal people as being like rescuers, seeing the perfections as being like one's mother and father, seeing the practices which help one to attain awakening as being one's attendant, never ceasing to accumulate wholesome roots, creating a Buddha field which possesses good qualities of Buddha fields, being unrestrained and of making offerings for the purpose of attaining the bodily marks and secondary characteristics of the Buddha, adorning one's body, speech, and mind by not engaging in any kinds of evil acts, purifying one's body, speech, and mind by wandering through samsara for countless eons, avoiding despondency by listening attentively to the good qualities of the Buddha with an attitude of mental heroism, defeating the upakilesas and defilements which are one's enemies by taking up the sword of panya, wisdom, taking up the burden of all living beings by understanding the categories of existence, the elements, the kama gunas, sense bases, attacking Mara's hosts' enemies with flaming vigor, seeking the eternal Dhamma in order to free oneself from pride, being satisfied with little in order to get hold of the eternal Dhamma, and to seek knowledge, not getting involved with worldly things in order to please worldly people, not disrupting one's spiritual practice in order to conform to the world, cultivating the higher knowledges in order to see all actions, developing knowledge, mindfulness, and the paramis in order to be able to remember everything one has heard, understanding the faculties of others in order to remove uncertainties of all living beings, basing oneself upon non-attachment in order to teach the eternal Dhamma, developing the faculty of clear expression in order to give clear expressions to non-attachment, experiencing good fortune as human beings or a god by purifying one's practice of the 10 wholesome kinds of actions, attaining the state of the Brahma God by cultivating the 4 limited qualities. This is the Brahma Viharas: Metta, Upekha, Karuna, and so forth. But in here it says the Brahma God by cultivating the 4 limited qualities. So it's the Brahma Viharas, the 4 Brahma Viharas. Asking the Buddha to teach the eternal law of Dharma, praising them, rejoicing in them, and making offerings to them in order to hear them speak, attaining restraint from body, speech, and mind, and becoming absorbed in all Dharma teachings in order to realize the spiritual practice of the Buddha, assembling the bodhisattva sangha in order to spread the dispensation, the teaching, being vigilant so that one does not lose any good quality. This child of a good family is how a person who's practicing the 10 perfections, who is devoted to the Dharma, does not destroy what is conditioned. What then does it mean to not be base oneself upon the unconditioned? A person practicing the 10 perfections thoroughly familiarizes himself with emptiness, but does not realize emptiness. He thoroughly familiarizes himself with freedom from characteristics, but does not realize freedom from characteristics. He thoroughly familiarizes himself with freedom from aspirations, but does not realize freedom from aspirations. He thoroughly familiarizes himself with non-accomplishment, but does not realize non-accomplishment. He examines impermanence, anicca, but is not content with wholesome roots. He examines what is dukkha, painful, but chooses to be reborn. He examines the non-existence of the essential self, atta, but he does not give himself over to destruction. He examines peace, but does not cultivate absolute peace. He examines the state of having no foundation, but does not abandon the foundation of good qualities. He examines freedom from grasping, upatana, but takes on the burden of living beings. He examines freedom from intoxicating inclinations, but follows those of samsara vata. He examines non-action, but acts in order to bring living beings to maturity. He examines the absence of an essential self, but does not waver in his great compassion for living beings. He examines freedom from birth, but does not fall prey to the limitations of a discipline. Limitations of a disciple. He examines hollowness, triviality, instability, ownerlessness, and homelessness. But his beneficial karma is not hollow. His knowledge is not trivial. His discrimination is perfect. He is initiated into self-arisen knowledge, nana dasana, and skilled in self-arisen knowledge. He makes his meaning clear. He is based himself on the lineage of the Buddha. This, children of a good family, is how the person on the path for the 10 perfections, who is devoted to the eternal Dhamma, does not base himself on what is unconditioned, and yet does not destroy what is conditioned. This can be cited in the Vimalakkhiti Nidesa Sutra, chapter 10, section 16 through 18. That was translated from Sanskrit. we're going to stop there today, and we'll pick up on it. The need for a spiritual teacher. Chapter 6, the Buddhist path and its practice, from the perspective of the Mahayana tradition. Common Buddhist text, guidance and insight from the Buddha. Chief editor, Dr. Prat Maha Dhamma Kosachan.